Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. It takes a while. What is the Shootout Series? Well, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm your host today on Archery Talk 101, and we're going to find out with Rhonda and Bobby and see what it's all about. Let's have you go and introduce yourself. Rhonda, let's go introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you.
My name is Rhonda Elam. I am from South Central Kentucky, and my husband is the head coach at Lindsey Wilson College and was on last week. That's how we found out about you guys. And I've been involved in archery since 2001 and been coaching since then through NASP and S3DA and now with the Shootout Series. Also compete competitively myself with ASA.
Yeah, Bobby, introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you.
Well, I'm Bobby Smith. I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Have multiple clubs down here as well. Been involved with archery for a very long time, kind of like Rhonda, with multiple different organizations as far as ASA and USA and NFAA. We have shot with most all of them and been very excited to kind of get something new in the state going and find some folks that want to do some things that are a little bit different. So we kind of started up the Shootout Series, and it seems to have really taken hold. So very blessed, very humbled by it. And Rhonda and I have definitely put in a lot of work with a lot of our board members and doing the same things. And we've just been very, very humbled by everything we've encountered over the last few years.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Well, we'll get in that in a second here, but I'd like to know, why and how you got started in archery. Go ahead, Rhonda.
I actually got started when Mark and I were dating, and we were watching Buckmasters on television. And I said, I'd like to try to shoot again because I did that in 4-H camp and I was pretty good at it. And he said, well, get in the car. And he went and bought a bow for me that day. And at that time, there weren't a lot of women in archery, and we didn't understand that your front arm has some issues with women's arms being different and needing to roll our elbows in. So somebody might be a little hard-headed in this group, and I kept hitting my arm, and they were wanting me to take a break, and I wouldn't, and I ended up and almost bled from the welts that came out until I learned later on how to not get hit. We went and shot our first 3D the next weekend, and we've been hooked ever since and traveled all over the United States bow hunting and competing in IBO ASAs all over.
Yeah, Bobby, how about you? Why and how did you get started?
Oh man, well, I started youth, kind of out of necessity. I grew up in a small town, and we hunted and fished for a lot of our food source, and so that's kind of what got me into it. And then, of course, got married, and we had kids, and then my kids decided, hey, I'd like to do archery, Dad, and so got started that way and started donating some time to help out with some local organizations, and Siegel Middle School was one of them in the NASP program, a lot like Rhonda, and so we kind of expanded on from that to other organizations, and coaching kind of became a thing that I saw was a need in this area to help youth archery grow. I saw that there was a need, and we just kind of fell into it from there and just kept pushing and moving forward. But my experience has been from the hunting side to target archery, and have thoroughly enjoyed it. More so watching the kids grow and learn, and seeing how they respond and enjoying those moments. Because sometimes, yeah, we have our own times, but it's more important for us to see that, because our youth is tomorrow, and we may be here today, but they're going to be here tomorrow. And the only way things keep moving forward is to keep developing them and watching them grow and have those experiences.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to let the sport of archery, die out. It's been here for 64,000 years. So, why would this generation want to stop that? It's been going on for so long.
And we do appreciate you having us on, Roy. I can say this is my first time on a podcast about archery, and I'm very blessed to be that. But I will say this, archery is obviously a huge part of my life. kind of the shirt says it all.
Yeah.
You know, Ron and I spend, I probably, and I say this with humility, I probably donate more time to archery in a week than what most people work in a full-time job. And I can promise you my wife would more than agree with that. And it's definitely a blessing working with young people, still developing my own skills. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And people will always assume that coaches know everything there is to know and they shoot the best in the world. But we all have our off days and our off experiences, and we appreciate every moment from that because we grow from it, right?
And what he might not tell you is he actually coaches 3 teams and has over 100 kids. And on top of his team days and coaching, he also does private lessons. So he's a little busy.
Yeah, that's a little busy, but you know what? It's, you know, whenever I teach somebody how to shoot, you know, just seeing the light bulbs come on and everything
Absolutely.
else, and it's really amazing when somebody picks it up. You know, it's, you know, that's why we do it. It's not as much for the money. It's for the, you know, the love of keeping the sport going.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why when I had my store, you bought a bow, you automatically got lessons with it. I'm not going to sell you a bow and it's like, here you go. Come back later when you want something. It's no, I'm going to teach how to shoot.
Right.
And it's always nice when you have somebody come in 2 weeks after they picked up the first bow and shot their first arrow, come back and show you a Robin Hood they got.
That is, I'll have one of those trophies on the wall every now and again, right?
Yeah, and I've got a few of them. I've lost most of them, but you know, I still have one around here that I have. I don't even know where it's at right now, but you know, I keep them. I quit shooting single spots because I quit wrecking too many arrows. And you know, back when I started shooting aluminum arrows, and I shoot the bullet point, so they, you know, Robin Hood on one of those is a little more difficult because if you're not perfect dead on, they just bounce off. And I wreck so many knocks and inserts on the back of them, you know. So I just quit shooting single spots. But now with the carbons, it's a little bit different, but they're a little skinnier.
Yeah. Pin knock bushings help out a little bit too.
Yeah. So tell me about the difference between what you had been shooting and your shootout series and why it is that you started it.
I'll
Rhonda,
start with the start of it. It kind of happened during the COVID year and everything got shut down. We were very disappointed, of course, but we understood. But that fall, things were kind of flaring back up again. And the discussion was if they shut it down again, our kids would go without again. So there was a coach in South Tennessee that called and said, hey, why don't we just do a scrimmage? And we'll do a scrimmage between your kids and our kids. And then, you know, and he said, we've got the best kids in the state anyway. So we went and started that. And I said, hey, let's call Bobby. And we called Bobby and he jumped in with us. So we were the original 3 that kind of, we didn't understand what we were doing at the time. We just wanted to have a thing for our kids to shoot. So we started with that. Our first year, we ended up with kids from 3 states. We had 3 kids out of Ohio that drove down and shot 5 shoots in Tennessee. We had 11 clubs that ended up with us that time. So we had about 118 kids. So the next year we kept hearing from the parents how they would like to shoot as well, because we don't have a lot of indoor here. So we added adult categories, and then Kentucky decided they wanted to have shoots. So we added another state. So we had 455. So this year we added some extra adult classes, and that where we saw a lot of participation, and added Arkansas and Missouri. So we had over, gosh, I don't even know. I think it was over 1,200 scores entered. We had about 600 archers that participated with us this last year. So I'm gonna let Bobby do the differences between.
So obviously we have made it a I guess challenge for ourselves to do things that are unique, do things that are more different than what the normal is, especially here in the state of Tennessee. Between our organizations, we just wanted to be a little bit different, and doing different we found was much better. And not just because of the organization itself, but some of the things that we did before became very static and very mundane and very routine. And the kid, we were noticing it within the kids. So we started asking the questions, hey, what is it you would like to see? What is it you'd like to do? How can we assist making these things better for you? And we started listening. And when we put our ears to the ground and we started hearing what the kids were saying and what the adults were saying, just like Rhonda said, we started hearing adults talk about, hey, we don't have much indoor here in the state of Tennessee. So are you guys going to be able to accommodate some of that? And so we did open up for that, which is very different because most youth organizations don't offer that as an option, you know. So where ASA has youth and adult, we kind of built upon that same motto. We also shot with S3DA and NASP and a lot of the other organizations, USA and NFAA. And we still do those same things. We still give our kids the opportunities to shoot with those organizations. Nothing has really changed there, but we did offer them something that was a little bit different. It looked more like what Lancaster does in a lot of ways. And we shoot this kind of the same targets in a lot of ways, but the style and format may be just a little bit different. How many arrows we shoot may be just a little bit different. How the distance that we shoot may be just a little bit different. But when I say that, it's just enough that it keeps everybody interested and we're not following through with the same things that we've been doing year after year after year. And we've seen that has been the flow and the direction that have carried us where we are right now. And we're thankful for that. I think that we're still seeing that positive growth where more states continue to come in with interest and are like, hey, we saw you guys did this and this and this. We think we might be interested in shooting with you. What do we need to do? And so we just give them the information and give them the opportunity. And it has definitely worked itself into where more and more people keep coming on. But, you know, Rhonda and I have been at this for a long time. And you know, I have to give my hat off to Doodle Gardner because, you know, without Doodle coming in saying, hey, what do y'all think about doing this scrimmage thing between us and doing some different stuff? We'd probably not be right where we are today. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are in the inner workings of this, and Rhonda and I kind of trudged through it. I made a comment to her earlier, and I said, well, girlie, you know, we're bad about sticking our toe in the water. It just happens to be the deep end, and we usually go down under, and then we find ourselves swimming back out. So that's kind of where we are. But Rhonda, if you got anything to add, just go ahead and throw it in there.
Yeah, another thing that's a little different is we start with peewees. So this year we had from 4-year-old to 76 years old. And we grew from having one evening that was from about 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock to about 9 o'clock that night. And now we're at 2 days and we run live on YouTube the entire time. With Mark does an amazing job of commentary and talking about the kids and what their interests are and what they've learned from archery. And this year we had over 26 hours of live commentary and shooting that went on YouTube. So, and we just I keep it running in my office and listening to it all the time just because it's really cool to listen to.
Yeah, it is when you get out there and talk about something that, you know, we all have a passion for, because, you know, that's why would I have a podcast about archery, you know, if it's not a passion, you know, and anything we can do to promote it is always good. So one question, you know, some of the new people, you know, because I have brand new archers that have basically just picked up a bow to archers that have been shooting for 60, 70 years, anywhere from, you know, beginner to Olympic level. You know, a lot of the alphabet soup we're spelling out there, you know, don't really know what they are. So maybe we could come back, start with what would a typical shoot yours look like? We'd be shooting spot targets, we shooting animal targets, or what would a shoot look like?
For indoor, yeah, we would be a lot the same. Most of the time we would shoot a triple vertical and a single spot, and we have those options. Where we're different with that is kind of a little bit into our rules. You know, we definitely made our emphasis on youth archery and promoting and edifying and helping those kids develop the skill set in order to shoot better and learn proper form. And everybody wants to learn the proper form, but we found that, the height challenge becomes a thing. So shooting at the top of a triple spot can become a challenge for a younger archer. So if you have somebody that's in a peewee class or somebody that's in the youth class, their height challenge may be a little difficult for them to get that top spot perfectly every time. So in our rules, this last year, we did augment them to allow those shooters to shoot 2 into 1 to kind of help them. It also encouraged them not necessarily say, hey, we're breaking the normal rule of we need to shoot 1 arrow in each spot, because we still train that way. We still want them to grow and learn that way. However, we're not doing anything if we can't help those archers get the most points that we can. And if it means they drop down and shoot the middle target twice and shoot the bottom one once, if that's what helps that archer get through to get that mentality of, yes, I can do this, that's what we're about. We're not about being so stickler on the rules that, oh, well, you're going to have to shoot each one of those spots, and that's just the way it is. And if you drop those points and you drop those points, we understand that's our ultimate goal. But we're not so hard that we don't recognize the need is to help them build their confidence also. That's so important with youth archery. If we don't continue to help these kids have the confidence and see that they can, then that mental side of it of I can't will start to dwell inside them, and then they can't progress. And as we all know, I say all the time to my kids, archery is 90% mental, 10% physical. We can get the physical side of it down, but we oftentimes forget how tough the mental side can be. So we want to make sure that we expand on that and help. Obviously, if they chose to shoot a single spot instead of the triple, we're going to honor that. We don't have any issues with that. But we're touching on something, and this has been kind of a topic of debate for us organizationally too, especially with our board members, about what we need to do. For me, I always want to look at it in the best interest of the kids. As an organization, yeah, we have to look at those things, but youth archery will not grow if we don't continue to expand on their knowledge and help them get where they need to be. And this was just one example of a rule that we kind of manipulated a little bit in our own organization. It doesn't stand out and stand strong with the others, but we're not those organizations. So we're here to continue to grow youth archery and promote and edify the kids. And what better way to do that than be able to set our rules to say, hey, well, we can do this, even though these other organizations don't. Eventually you'll get there because they're going to grow, they're going to get stronger. And then the next thing you know, they're going to shoot that top spot just fine. But that's one of the examples that we do things a little bit different.
And then we also, if you've got a brand new archer that has never shot a tournament before, those coaches will come up between the line and you can say, hey, make sure you keep your bow up straight, kind of walking them through it. And then if a kid has trouble, either physically or mentally or equipment wise, we just break them down and we'll pull them off to the side, and you'll see coaches with every jersey jump in and help those kids get back, because it's more important for us, for those kids to have a positive experience than it is for us to say, okay, you have 20 minutes or you have 30 minutes or whatever the breakdown time is. So whatever it takes, that's what we do in those qualifiers. We do 5 qualifiers a year, and people keep their top 3 scores to make a national ranking. And we kind of line up like USA Archery does, to where once we put all the scores together, we take the top 8 that will get an invitation to our national gauntlet.
So, those that develop are going to get rewarded, and those that don't want to put in the work aren't going to get rewarded. And it sounds like you go through, and if you're struggling, if you're willing to put in the work, somebody's there that's going to help you.
Absolutely.
And that's the way it should be. If you're willing to put in the work, I'll help you. If you're not willing to put in the work, I'm not going to help you, because I was wasting my time, to do that. But if you're willing to put in the work, it's not a waste of any of my time. That's kind of why I look at anything I'm teaching, whether it be archery or any other sport or anything else I'm teaching is, if you're willing to put in the time and the effort, you're going to get better.
Another thing we chose to do is trying to align with the collegiate archery, which of course for me is really important, is the college does not shoot a 5-spot. They are, or a Vegas. They shoot at the 3-spot world verticals. So we wanted these kids to learn to shoot the verticals now because if anybody's shot verticals, it's a whole lot different ball game than shooting a 5-spot. So last year we had a elementary kid that shot a 300 on a 3-spot vertical. So you can only imagine if that kid's doing that in elementary school, by the time he gets to college, what skills he will have developed. So we wanted to kind of line up with those guys because our ultimate goal is for those kids to have a chance to get a college scholarship and to go shoot if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah, and kids, when they're that young, they don't know they can't do it.
Right.
Unless we tell them they can't, if we tell them they can do it, they're going to believe us because you can do it, and next thing you know, they do it and they go to it again and again. And next thing it's like, I got this. I know how to do this. So do you just do spot targets or you also have a 3D version of it?
Rhonda, you want to start with that one? Sorry, guys, I've got a call. I'm not going to answer it, but I do have to get somebody else to handle it.
Okay.
Okay.
What we started, we wanted to try to experience mainly what we have here is 3D. So we have actually developed a program that we're going to do this spring called the archery. So it's a triathlon with an archery twist. So our kids will be shooting an outdoor target round. We will have 3 different tournaments. So they will have an outdoor target. That in Tennessee, theirs is in April. Then we're going to be learning about redding, and we're going to do redding style 3D because that's something nobody around here has ever seen. And then their third shoot will actually be a field round because I hear it's really fun to shoot field rounds, but we've never had that in my archery days around here. It's been very few and far between. So we're wanting to introduce our kids to several different types of archery. So our triathlon is what we'll be doing this spring. Then this fall, we are going to, again, lining up with college, the collegiate kids shoot 3D in the fall. So we are looking about doing a 3D type series in the fall for these kids as well. Keeping them shooting as much as we can.
Yeah, keep them interested. So many times, the summertime, you get off
You
doing
lose 'em.
something else, and then they come back and it's like, yeah, no, I'm busy doing something else. I got something else I'm doing, and you kind of let the archery fall aside. But if you can keep them involved, that definitely helps. Also keeps their archery skills up too.
Yes.
I know when I was competitive roller skating, it's a wintertime sport, just like the ice skating, but it's on wheels. And summertime it was kind of our time off, but yet we still would go do stuff, just to keep going. Because if you wait a whole summer, you lose a lot of it. And like any sport, you can't take that much time off and not lose something. You can get it back. It's easier to get back, but why? It's a fun sport. And
Right. Well, and Ron and I thought a lot about that, doing the fun thing with what we're looking at is when you look at doing things that are not normal, especially within your state. And we had talked about doing redding 3D. Well, that's definitely not a normal for this area. So making decisions like that to do something that's out of the normal, we're hoping that invites more folks to come in and learn and develop those skills to do some of those things that they wouldn't normally do. Same thing with some of the field stuff. Other than NFAA, there's not a lot of organizations that are doing standard field rounds or that actually have a series of outdoor target other than USA. So when you start working and developing the kid's skill set, we have the flexibility to set distances a little bit different and keep that in the mindset of the kids. Yeah, it may be a little bit shorter. However, our goal ultimately is to develop the skills in archery and help them have success. And that's kind of what's important for us as an organization.
yeah, I know one of the targets that I used to have fun shooting at is they've got different targets. They have like a dartboard. You can play darts with your bow and arrow. They have tic-tac-toe, and they have ones with cards on them. And the tic-tac-toe is kind of fun because if you want the spot, you got to get closer to the center. And if you don't, well, you're down an arrow. And there's a lot of strategy in shooting a tic-tac-toe type target. And it's not just practicing, but it's practicing because now you're focused on, okay, I need this square, I need this one, but I got to get this one, but they have it. So can I take it away? So now you got to make sure you can take it away. And a little strategy in there, and it just focus a little more attention, playing some of those games like that. And yeah, those are always kind of fun. And
Correct. Rhonda and I did 3 years ago when we first started, we did a novelty or kind of a fun shoot to give away some target faces. And we used the dartboard face as a target. And they learned if you want to hit that triple, you got to be on the money, and
right.
it wasn't just about our open compound shooters. We did a mixed bag. So we didn't have just open shooters shooting it or this. So we mixed up our pin shooters and open shooters and our barebow shooters and Olympic shooters, and we put them all in one hot bag, so they were like, oh, wait a minute, there are 4 of us shooting, so they had to strategize who went first and who could do this and do that. And they started seeing, oh, wait, some of these kids with the barebow can really, really shoot. They don't have to just hit wherever. They can actually pick their spot too, especially if they string walk and they're not true traditional to the knot. So
Right.
Lots of differences that we were able to afford those kids, but it was awesome to watch them do those different things and see how their mind worked, to watch them together to go, wait a minute, if you shoot first and you shoot second and you shoot third, this may be our best setup. Or they go, oh, wait a minute, well, let's think about how much distance we have and who's better at what for this. And we found that the pin shooters, they did really well. But our open shooters, if they didn't have tape pulled for something at 10 yards, they struggle a little bit with being mark on for that. So
Yeah.
Our barebow shooters, not so much. They could pull their stitches to exactly 10 yards and let it rip and hit exactly where they're aiming at. It was quite the competition to watch them do that stuff.
Well, and that is another thing that aligns straight with collegiate, is because those team rounds that you'll see in collegiate are very similar with that. There is a mixed discipline team that we do at 3D Nationals, but in our regular collegiate conference, and to be able to watch those kids on a team, and it's as loud as a Final Four basketball game with 200 kids standing behind their teams, screaming and hollering and cheering for and watching, and you can tell where the arrow hits just by the crowd reaction. But that's the thing, we wanted to kind of introduce some of that fun into our kids as well.
Yeah, that makes it nice. And then, if you're used to having an audience behind you cheering you on while you're shooting, that you learn to focus on what you're doing and block everything else out. And
Absolutely.
Guys seem to have that ability from their wives to say something, we're not paying attention
Collective.
because we're focused on what we're doing, and we tune everything else out. And anyway, that's what I do sometimes.
Hence why you wear a hat when you don't need to.
Because you listen.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You end up with knots on your head for not listening.
Yeah, fortunately I have some hair left, but sometimes I wear a hat, but I didn't today. But
yeah, my barber threatens to charge me a finder's fee. But yeah, getting out into doing the different stuff that we set out for has definitely been a gain for us organizationally. This spring, we're obviously looking at quite a different round, but we're getting positive feedback from where we look at it. People are excited about doing the different things. And so I think that's kind of what drives me to continue to donate time. As Rhonda said, I have 3 clubs here, 2 in Rutherford County, Tennessee, and then 1 in Wilson County, Tennessee. And between them, they keep me very busy, but seeing how every one of them from ages 4 all the way to 18, how they respond and how they go, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Or I tell them all the time, I said, you need to believe in yourself like I believe in you as a coach. I said, when you do that, I said, your mentality is going to change. You're not going to just think you can hit the target. You're going to know that you can hit the target, because we as coaches stand up and we believe in you. That's what we're here for. That's what we donate our time for. And I would say that most everybody that donates their time to coaching archery, that's exactly what they're doing. They want to continue to see the sport grow first, see young people continue to grow into the sport, and watch it continue to develop. And because, like I said, we don't have tomorrow if we don't have our kids. So no matter what it is, we got to educate them in everything we can. And archery for us is just that passion, and we want to continue to move that forward.
Yeah, and pretty much, if I didn't believe you could do it, I wouldn't waste my time teaching you.
Right.
And I'm teaching you, so I believe you can do it. And
Right.
that's just, sometimes you got to just flat out tell them. It's like, if I didn't believe you could do it, I wouldn't be teaching you.
Right.
And some kids that would hurt their feelings, other kids like, oh, that would get them started. And as you teach more and more people, you learn what that person really needs. And
That's that tough love, right?
right. Sometimes you've got to, and I've seen that done a few times, and the person that was done to is like, they just quit because they weren't really serious about what they're doing. Okay, think about, do you want this or not? And if you don't want it, then don't waste your time, my time. If you want it, I'll spend all the time you need.
Right. And that's the way of it. I mean, archery's not going to be for everybody, and we recognize that, just like baseball's not for everybody and football's not for everybody.
Right.
But for us, I guess that's the difference in us. I kind of laugh. I've got a T-shirt that says, "It's okay if you don't like archery. It's kind of a smart people sport anyway." Now, I'm sure there's people that take offense to that, but we say it jokingly. I think I've got a T-shirt for just about everything. I'm sure Rhonda would agree with that. But in the same token, if we take it so serious that that's all we do all the time, then life's not going to be worth very much on that front either. We have to kind of have our checks and balances and recognize that. And I think that that said, not that I'm getting on a preaching stance by any means, but God gave us everyone our own talents. But I think that He knows what we can and can't do individually, and He puts us where we're supposed to be. So I always say I'm very blessed to be where I'm at and have the ability and the time to do what I do. That's very important for our community, not just as the archery community, but for our community right here in Murfreesboro and Lebanon, Wilson County as well. You got to have coaches and infrastructure out there in order to continue to educate. And that was just one of the other reasons that we decided to do the shootout series, was because the need is there. If it wasn't there, we would have nobody coming in and shooting with us. And so
Right.
obviously we've met a need. So, we're glad that we can be in this position.
Yeah, kind of like I build it and they'll come. It's like you're gonna find what they want and then build what they want and then they'll come.
Right.
And the way your group is growing here, that shootout series is growing. That's a piece that people need. And don't try and duplicate what Lancaster does. Don't try and duplicate all the other shoots, because why they would pick between yours or theirs. It's the same event. Which one you go to? Well, yours isn't the same event. It's different.
Correct.
And that's what's nice about all the different options you have, is you can shoot anything you want. If you want to just shoot indoor 3Ds, summertime is a little bit tougher because most of them go outdoors for it. But if you just want to shoot 3Ds, you can do that. You don't have to do anything else. If you just want to shoot for fun, you can do that. If you want to compete, just amongst you and your buddies, like if the three of us went to a shoot, like, I don't care. We could come in last, next to last, and third from last. The challenge I just with a buddy of mine is like, okay, who gets to give it on the way home and who has to receive it? Well, next week it might be different. Just competing against, our little group or whoever you want to go with. And, a lot of the 3D stuff I've been into, that's like, they do them in different flights. So you got number 1 gets first place, number 11 gets first place, number 21 gets first place. So if you come in at number 10, you got last place, but if you shot a little bit worse, you'd have got first place. And like, I see why they do it, because you got your beginners, that gives them a fair chance of getting some kind of a trophy, and then your enemies, and then you're more advanced. But it's not fair to the person that got shot 1 point higher and got nothing, as opposed to one that shot worse and got something. And
Right. I definitely see that point too. Yeah. Ron, did you draw a blank on me?
Oh, I'm here.
All right. I was like, I know I had to drop off there for a minute, but
No.
Chime in.
Well, and that's the thing is we just love working with kids, and however we've got to do it, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's always nice when you can get the kids going, because it's just so much fun. I know my youngest son, he was in Scouts, and he'd been shooting for a long time by the time he's in Cub Scouts. And we go to the scout camp, and they always had a parent behind each one. It's like, I stand because, like, okay, I got it. He knows more than anybody else on the line. In fact, one time he raises his hand, and the guy running the range comes over and says, "Yeah, Jerry, what's up?" Says, "The knock point's off on this bow." This is a Cub Scout telling an adult his bow's messed up.
Those messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he'd been shooting for, there's what, the 5-6-year-olds, and he's been shooting for, since he was probably about 3.
I had one of my NASP kids come up not long ago that said, "Coach, is this white thing supposed to slide up and down on the string?" I was like, no, it needs to be pretty fixed. You're not going to have a good spot to set the knock to. And so, there little things like that do happen. And of course, I guess that kind of, Rhonda and I have definitely dealt with our fair share of that. We handle breakdowns that are a little bit different. And so where we're talking about some of the coaches for our new kids are allowed to come up on the line, do we stop everything for a breakdown? Usually not. I mean, we roll through that like any other organization would, but we're more apt to, oh, okay, so your pin is not, something's loose, and we don't stop everything that they're doing. If they can make the adjustment, coach is standing behind them, they can make the adjustment to tighten it back up and get it back right and hand the bow back to them. We let them rock and roll. We don't just hold the progress up because of, they're having a technicality. Now, do we offer that 15 minutes to come off the line and reset and regroup and shoot? Absolutely, we do. But if it's something simple and we can see that it can be fixed right there, and it's not going to slow things down during the tournament process, then we handle it. We just roll on with it, and we give the kids the best opportunity and benefit that we can. And the adults in the same form and fashion, I think we as adults are much harder on ourselves when we shoot, because we think everything. And listen, if we're not perfect when we step up to the stage, well, then we're just going to suffer the consequences, right? But we're very flexible on those ideas too. And I'm not going to name any names, but I had an older gentleman that's been involved in this sport for a very, very long time came to me, and he said, "Bob," he said, "y'all did some great, great work here with these kids and these adults to offer up what you guys have has been truly a blessing for this community." And he said, "If you decided tomorrow to shoot it all over again for an indoor," he said, "I would sign up tomorrow and bring them all of my friends that I could to do it all over again." And I thought, what better compliment could we have to have folks that have been doing this forever to see that this is just different enough that they'd volunteer to do it all over for another 3 months tomorrow if we offer it. I thought that was kind of cool for an indoor thing.
Yeah, that is when you get somebody that's been around for a while and says, "Hey, this was a lot of fun. I like doing this." And hey, when we're doing it again.
Right. Kind of sets that thing up for us inside to go, hey, maybe we got this thing right. Maybe we're working the right direction. And that's kind of what keeps us going as an organization, for the board members. They see that we try and stay on top of making sure everybody's on the same page all the time. And that's one of the things that's very important. If we're not aligned together to make sure that youth archery is continuing to grow, we're not doing our job, and we probably need to find something else to do. Maybe I need to move to baseball or football or something else. But archery seems to be my niche. And like Rhonda, we've both been doing it for so long now. If I ever stopped, I would truly be stopped. It's time for me to go set up and fish somewhere. And of course, I've talked about that too. I said at some point I'm going to find my last child. I'm going to be okay. That's my last one. And then when I get done with this one, I'm going to fish the rest of my days instead of doing this. But everybody's got their passion, and I think we've certainly found ours. And the community is certainly reaching out and coming to us and saying, "Hey, we like what you're doing," and looking for more. And we continue to do that. So the more is what we're about. We're trying to keep giving them more options and different options, and see how that works, because that seems to be what the nature of the beast is. That people want something just a little bit different, just a little out of the normal. And I'm kind of excited a little bit about the Reading stuff myself, because unless you're out west, you're typically not shooting those Reading events. So here in Tennessee, it's going to be brand new. We're kind of excited about some of that. So yeah, Rhonda, what are your thoughts?
One of the real cool things that I thought is up in Kentucky, there was a group of moms that had been hauling their kids everywhere to go to all these archery tournaments. Well, they decided that they wanted to learn to shoot. So the kids were actually coaching the moms, and they formed a team called the Mom Squad. And I mean, they're all just brand new, very novice, but are having a great time. And they actually let one dad be an honorary Mom Squad person, but they have their own little team, and they'll show up and their kids will shoot. And the parents who are brand new, I can't even tell you how many people this was their first year of competitive archery, which is just cool.
Yeah,
Well, and then we
it-
all get our Dubs titles too, right? I
Right.
mean, I've been called a daddy caddy ever since my daughter's been shooting or my son's been shooting, and they all laugh about it. But you'd be surprised at the people I've had come up to me, hey, said, you got any shirts that say daddy caddy or honorary daddy caddy? I'm like, makes me laugh, you know?
yeah. I know it's just so much fun doing this kind of stuff. And
We forget about the conservation side of it too, you know? I mean, most of our archers that shoot indoor and transition to outdoor in 3D, most of them are all hunters too. You know, I naturally grew up in that aspect, and so we think about the conversation, not just the conversation about, but the conservation side of archery and how important that is to what it is that we're teaching and training also. Because we've got our group that probably will never hunt in their lifetime, but we have a mass majority of our group that probably hunt every year, and we recognize that. And state of Tennessee, you know, we're huge. I will say this: I know that I track what the cull rate is every year on deer harvest, and people are like, really, do you really pay that much attention to it? And I was like, well, when the state of Tennessee offers every individual hunter an opportunity to take 123 animals per season, there's a huge cull rate. And I was
yeah,
like, so I said, we have to kind of be mindful of that and think about why it is that that's necessary, because there's a reason that they're wanting those numbers. So we have to continue to teach the kids that part of it too. And by honoring our wildlife with archery, that's just part of it. And yeah, some are going to go on to gun hunt and rifle hunt, but that's still the same thing. So if we're teaching them to be good stewards of our wildlife in archery, we're going to teach them to be good stewards whether they use a rifle or they use archery tackle. Either way, it's what we're supposed to be doing and doing our part in conservation. So
And personally, I came from the other side. I was anti-hunting as I grew up, and then we started shooting 3D, and I thought, you know what? If I have to be 20 or 30 yards from an animal, that's pretty fair game. So I started, by myself in a tree stand, and once the first one went down, we've hunted in Texas and Illinois, all over the place, because sometimes my husband will say to everybody is I hunt more than he does now.
that's a good thing though, right?
Right, absolutely.
He works and you hunt and have fun teaching archery.
Okay, we'll say that.
well, and there's been a dynamic growth in female archery too. That's something that doesn't get talked about very much either. But I know within my clubs, I have seen a dramatic growth with females coming into the sport. And of course, I tell my guys all the time, I'm like, listen, you better watch. I said, they have better balance than we do. They think better than we do. I said, not that I'm being
They listen better than the boys
disrespectful, but
do.
yeah, for the most
I was going
part,
to say that.
they do listen to the instruction and take instruction well, and they usually find themselves doing very, very well. So we definitely pay attention to those things too. So, like I said, we're very blessed as an organization to be part of that growth and see and recognize, hey, this is more to it than just being the regular sport like everybody else chooses. Let's see how we can make it better and something that people want to do, not necessarily are moved into. I grew up playing every regular level sport known to man. One, because of like everybody else. Well, my daddy did this or my daddy did that. And so you kind of follow in those footsteps. Well, I can tell you, my dad never shot a bow a day in his life. There's things that kind of naturally progressed me to do something very different than what my father did. And I kind of respect that now. It's kind of made me the person that I am, and it's definitely put me on a different pathway to life than what my father represented. But in the same token, I was hoping that maybe that would transfer on to my kids and their friends, and we've seen that time and time again. I mean, I've been around this long enough that I've seen several of Doodle's kids grow, and the kids that he has taught that have grown, and Rhonda's group that has grown, Calvin, all of them. We've got so many folks that are involved in this organization and archery that we've known for years. Watching them grow and develop, and then become young adults and go into adulthood to where they're in college and they're shooting, and then they get out of college, and you have one of them come back years later and say, "Hey coach, how you doing?" and completely blindside you because you didn't know they were going to stop by on that Tuesday when you're coaching archery.
Yeah.
That there's nothing better than seeing that come back,
We have lots of those parents and older kids that come back and shoot with us. Like sometimes when we have practice, we're half adults, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we learn from everybody when we're going out there doing that. And I can see like down in Tennessee, you're hunting it. You have lots of woods, and you really can't shoot a gun for very long because there's so much trees in here. In Nebraska, we have a lot of open areas, so sometimes you got 300-400 yard shots you can take, but not with a bow, of course. But that's where archery, we can get into areas to help control the population, because we all know, and most people that know anything about hunting, if the population gets too large, they're going to reduce themselves by disease, and then now the animal has to suffer through whatever this disease that kills them all off until it gets down. Well, if we can go in there with a bow, shoot them, they just go lay down and die, they haven't suffered, and at least somebody gets to use the meat other than the coyotes.
Right. There's benefits all the way around. I think the more we continue to teach that, the better things will be in our society today. And of course, my dad told me when I was a kid, he was like, "Son," he says, "you may not always be able to walk into a grocery store and get something that you want to eat. So you may have to provide for yourself." And I kind of laughed at that when I was young, but then the more I saw things as I grew, I was like, he's right. I can't tell you how many animals we raised on the piece of property we owned as a kid that, they weren't pets by any stretch of the imagination. They were definitely something that we utilize on our piece of property for food value and resource. And it's just one of those things that we had to make sure that we did our diligence with that, so training our siblings and training other family members to, this was our lifestyle. It may not have been their lifestyle, but it was very important. And so
Right.
learning archery and being able to continue that conservation trail definitely works.
Well, and archery is a sport that you can pick up any time, and maybe you have to make your own bow. You got your sting and your string and a stick and another stick, and you make it and you go after small game.
Right.
That's sport. And if you have the basic skills behind it, you can learn to shoot whatever you have. That's what I kind of call archery, is a stick with a string flinging another stick.
Right.
Right. It's like, prove me wrong. It's like crossbows. Everybody thinks crossbows, like, well, you know what? Crossbows have their place. If you want a young kid, that, I don't, depend on which state you're in, you have to be a certain age, but sometimes your 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, they can't pull a regular compound back and hold it. Well, you
Correct.
get them in a crossbow, now they can go out and hunt, and when they get bigger, they can move into the crossbow. Or at the other end of the spectrum, as we get older, we can't necessarily pull back those bows, and crossbows are valid. And in Nebraska, it used to be you had to be handicapped or have not be able to draw back a traditional bow to use it in archery. Well, they changed it here several years back. Now archery, crossbow is a valid weapon during archery season,
Right.
which it should be. You don't really have a lot of advantage by shooting a crossbow.
No, and I bought one years and years and years ago for that exact reason. My son was 7, 8 years old, and I could pull the bolt back and get it ready for him, and he could sit in the blind with me and still use archery tackle. And I believe that's part of what kept him moving forward in that tradition. I mean, he got to watch me shoot, but I think that just him having the opportunity to get out with me as a young person definitely helped that keep that mindset. And now he's in college, and I laughed. I told my wife not long ago, I was like, "You believe Caleb asked me?" He's like, "Hey, Dad," he said, "I think I'd like to hunt with you this year." He said, "I know that I've been in school and out of pocket, and I haven't been doing much with that." He said, "But I think I'd like to go back with you this year." And I thought, well, how cool is that the circle has kind of made its way back to where now it's back on his mind as a young adult that's in college. It's back in his head. Maybe he needs to do his part too. And so, yeah, I can definitely see your point on that.
Yeah, it's if they get them out there shooting, and that's the thing. It's when you have your targets, though, some targets just won't stop the crossbow bolts. Yeah, and
Right,
because it's so short. But when I had my store, if you want to shoot a crossbow, you could, but you had to bring a crossbow target to put in front of it because it'd get buried in my backstop.
right,
And then you
right,
couldn't get it out. And I wasn't going to let you leave a bolt in the backstop because you hit it with something and you end up breaking something. So, I wouldn't allow you to shoot broadheads because it really
right,
tears up your targets.
right. But we don't allow the broadheads either. It's just strictly target points when we do what we do. But obviously, if we had somebody that wanted to tune a bow and go outside and set up a rough target and let them get tuned in, then I don't have any issues with that. I just never let them shoot my indoor stuff like that. So,
Right. Well, it tears them up. If it's solid foam, it cuts hunks out of it. If it's a layered
yeah,
one, every time you shoot, big old hunks come out of it. And I know guys that take the small block target and shoot your broadhead in anyway. Um, just realizing that it's not going to last as many.
right. Well, we have a specific bale for that, I like to say. So I made a 3x3 bale and I filled the inside of it with old shrink wrap that came from all these manufacturers around. I just go gather it up and we just cram it in there and cram it in there until it's so tight that you can't move. And we just let them shoot that. And if I have to put more in there, then we'll put more in there. But it's the only
Yeah.
one that I've got that's specifically designed to let people shoot those with. So, and it seems to stop them very well. Rhonda, I tell
Well,
you, I'm a frugal guy. I don't spend crazy amounts of money if I don't have to.
Bobby has kind of mastered building his own targets down there. He's got with a tarp company and foam, and he makes some awesome targets that are pretty reasonable to put up.
Definitely
I
helped
got
us out through the season, didn't they?
yeah. I got one of those target replacement faces, that have the you can tie them all up, and I just stuffed it full of old clothes.
Yeah,
And I've shot on targets like that, 70 pounds at about 5 feet, and it just stops at two fingers pull out.
absolutely. And I think
You
that was a
get,
benefit for ours too.
yeah, they're easy to pull out. And when it gets all shot up, buy a new face and put it, around that one and stuff it full. I just made sure I cut off like buttons and zippers and snaps and stuff like that.
Right,
I didn't want anything hard in there other than the claw. But
right,
Actually
those
have
work good.
We actually have one team in Knoxville, Tennessee, who build a three-sided box and they put trampoline material on the front and then a piece of cardboard. And there's a sock factory there. They get these big, like a pallet of seconds or whatever socks, and they fill their bales with that. And they're great, easy for the kids to pull. They do a good job stopping, and then all they have to do is pull it out and stuck in more socks.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always nice what you can do and make your own. And I know when I had my range, I bought some rolls of foam that's used like in the auto industry, and I just laid them out and cut them and use um, the tie wraps down to wrap it down. The banding. I got me a
right,
bander and everything. I just band them all down, and then it gets shot up in the middle. And just tear it apart and move them around. And get shot
right.
up too bad, we'll just cut down the middle and flip them out. And you can shoot that for a long time.
Long time, absolutely. I told most of my kids they don't have the finances necessarily to have a real target that you could buy from the store. I'm like, listen, if you can afford to buy $1.35 3 cubic foot box from Walmart, a moving box, and you fill that up with old clothes, it'll stop every arrow known to man, and you can shoot it thousands of times. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. And so the next thing you know, I had one of my kids that lives in an apartment, believe it or not, and would shoot 5 yards in their hallway at a cardboard box they bought from Walmart and had it full of stuff, just full of clothes. But that said, from that year when I first met him, he knew nothing about archery. And I know Rhonda knows who I'm talking about. This young man's name is Angel Guevara. And that's how he practiced. If he was going to practice at home, he shot in his hallway. Never met him, never done archery. Ended up winning the state championship first time ever that year because he was just diligent in his practice.
Sometimes he beats his coach.
What did she say?
I said sometimes he beats his coach.
Absolutely. Sometimes he beats his coach. That's a fact. Sure did. Matter of fact, he got me this year at least once. So, yeah. But I'm proud of that too. I tell him all the time.
Absolutely.
I said, if the better you are, if you beat me, that tells me that I've done my job.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, and as we get older, I'm 68, I just turned 68, and I'm not as steady as I was before. And the worst thing is, like, my right eye, I'm right eye dominant, I shoot right-handed, but guess which is the blurry eye? The right one.
You're right.
So I draw back and I see my fiber optic pins, and I don't see a round red pin or yellow pin. I see what looks like a red donut with a black dot in the middle of it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, this is all blurry. So if people shooting these 100 yards, 120 yards, shots, I can't see that far with my eyes. So
Right.
I can't see, I don't know where I'd be putting my pin because I just don't see good enough that far. So shooting those long shots, yeah. And I'm a hunter. 20 yards or less is plenty. My
Right.
first year was at 40 yards, and I haven't shot anything over 20 cents. And I shoot most of about 10, and I've shot some at probably about 3 yards.
Right.
So I prefer to, I try to set, I'm hunting, I try to set for 20-yard shot, but those darn deer, they don't listen, they come in closer.
Sometimes it's like they're on a string, right? You're just pulling them right to you.
Yeah. But I had one time I shot, I don't know what I did. I shot over it, hit a tree on the other side. I heard it hit the tree, and the deer turned and run towards me and back around and give me a closer shot. Because he heard the arrow hit the tree, not my bow going off. So I was able to
Right.
load another arrow and able to get it the second time.
Right. And sometimes
Lost
you're
an arrow.
blessed that way.
Yeah,
Right.
lost an arrow, but it kind of hurts when you lose a muzzy broadhead and a carbon shaft. I shoot the Comp Pros, the straightest arrows I can shoot is what I shoot for hunting.
Right.
And I used to get, before the carbons come out and had aluminums, the double X 78s, which is a 0015 straightness. I'd buy a new set, new dozen, get them set up. I'd shoot them, get them all tuned up, make sure I know where they're hitting, and I'd hunt with those. Next year, I'd buy another set and I'd hunt with those. People's like, well, why are you hunting? So because I want the best shot I can. And you're going through, you don't have as much with carbons, with aluminums, you're starting off with your nice small, 1-inch group. And by the time, before you get your next ones, they're getting bigger and bigger. You can keep them in the white ring, but that's about all you can say. And then next thing you get new arrows, and it's like, boom, I start smacking arrows again. It's just all the straightness. And
Right.
I've seen that many
how the
times.
tolerances have changed, right?
Yeah. And even with carbons, I know one of my shooters, when I had my store, he would shoot the little bit lower grade ones, like in the 3000s range, and I shoot in the ones, in the carbons. And he was grouping okay. He couldn't consistently keep them in the X ring, but he was still pretty good. I'd say, here, try mine, because they're long enough for me to shoot. And amazing how much tighter this group was just by switching to my arrows.
Right.
One, I shoot feathers. I'm kind of old school. I shot feathers from when I was doing it in the 60s, and I still shoot feathers. I deal with the few times when I'm out in misty rain, but I don't like to hunt too much in the rain anyway. So
Right. Well, nothing a little dry fly wouldn't fix.
yeah. Well, and all I do is I have my arrows that I'm not hunting with, and when the one I have knocked gets kind of messed up, I take it out and I just switch arrows. I got another
Right.
dry arrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My daughter shot feathers. I still shoot feathers. Of course, I shoot bare bow recurve. I used to shoot compound. But we deal with that quite a bit. And of course, when we start field stuff, I switch out to spin wings or something of that nature, so I don't have to contend with the rain as much. But I prefer feathers just because I get more correction out of them. But that's me personally. There's a lot of people that they'll talk you to death about spider vanes and spin wings and all the new stuff that's out, and they do work great, and nothing wrong with it. But like you said, I guess I'm kind of old school. I still kind of go with what I know and what's comfortable. So
Well, I
right
know
there with you.
about 20 years ago when I was a PSE dealer, one of the guys from PSE told me they did some testing on vanes or feathers, which one is better. And what they found is because the feathers are lighter but provides more drag, they initially start out faster, but downrange they lose their speed because more drag. So
Right.
your feather starts off ahead, but then the vane keeps up. And then they also tested straight, helical, really fast, really hard twist. And what they found is at the time the circular velocity exceeded the forward velocity, it dropped like a parachute. So you're going along and you get to the point where it's rotating faster than it's going forward, and then it starts really dropping. Where if you don't do that, you don't have that much. It's more of a gradual drop because you're not spinning as much. So they
Right.
found the faster you spin it, the more it's going to drop like a parachute, once that speed slows down. Now,
Right.
at the ranges that we're normally shooting, I don't think it's going to make a difference, because, what's the forward velocity versus the angular velocity on it? And then once those, meet, now then you're having a problem. But, as fast these bows are, and you're not spinning those arrows that fast. Now,
Right.
some of the really fast spinning ones, like the spin wings, they're going to spin them faster, so it's going to happen sooner. But are you going to really notice it if you set your pins up for it? Then really, who cares?
Right. Right. At the end of the day, we're probably all in the same category. We're gonna shoot what works best for what we're shooting with, right?
Right.
So and we gotta remember to set the tune for the individual. I guess as a coach, that's kind of where I'm at. I know that Rhonda and them have definitely served this principle well, because they've taught me a lot over the years by making sure that, yeah, I can take this child's bow and set it up and it shoot well, but I'm not that child. So I have to make sure that we tune the bow to that individual, and they're going to shoot
Right.
and anchor differently than I do. So we need to make sure that we're forward thinking on that aspect of it too, because we're not doing any service if I pick the bow and go, oh, it shoots great, but then the child can't shoot it worth anything. We're not doing any service to the child. We need to make sure we always take that in consideration.
Yeah, I know when I was working I also, after I closed my store, then I worked at Bass Pro and Cabela's for a while. And it was going to come in, it's like, can you set it up for me? Sure, I can set it up, but I'll have to shoot your deer for you. So I'm going to set it up for me,
Right.
It's like, well, we can set up for you. And I had another guy, when you put a drop weight on, you have to shoot him to make sure it works okay. And I'd set up a drop weight. The guy brought in a bow. He couldn't, he's had all kinds of trouble. He couldn't get it to group and all this other stuff. And he wanted a drop away figure. That's the solution. Get a drop away, because it's doing it.
Right.
Well, I come in and I have to shoot it. So I shot one and I drew back, and fortunately it was right-handed. So I come back and I put the pin right on the other knock, and boom, I stuck two arrows together. And guy was sitting in there and he says, oh, there's somebody do this. Like, yeah, well, not my arrows. It's the store's arrows. So I don't care.
Right.
And then the guy come in and says, I can't get it to group for nothing. It's like, I shot two arrows, stuck two together. I'm like, I wanted to say, it's not the bow, dude, it's you. It kind
Right.
of got the point across. It's like, it shoots just fine. Let's see what's going on. And of course, it's always their form. And then I see a lot of people, it's like, I can't, I always have a bad tear, bad tear. Always, something I worry about having a tear. And I had one guy that's posting in one of the groups that said that, he's had that for a long time. A couple of years he's had a low tear, can't get rid of it. And I says, have somebody else shoot your bow. You get in the same tear. If you're not getting the same tear, it's your form.
Right.
And I've seen that, just shoot. You get a perfect shot, and I'll just make a death grip on that bow and shoot it and see what that arrow does. It's going to tear different.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's all stuff that we learn, being a bow tech and instructor for many years. I first became an NFA archery instructor in '95, and in 2001 I became a bow tech. And I went down to PSE, spent a week down there in their dealer school, and I've been working and teaching ever since. Lots of people, and that's one of the things that I allow in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group is if you have a problem with your form, upload a video. We'll take a look at it. I've got 25 years experience. And there's other people in the group that have been coaching for a long time. You know, I always tell them, the only dumb question is the one you haven't asked yet. Because as soon as you ask it, it's not dumb. Now, if you keep asking the same question over and over and over, I'm going to figure, okay, something's going on. You're not understanding what we're saying. And we got to do something a little different. But,
Right.
you know, that's, you know, just go in there and use the group. I don't allow links in there except like for the archery events.
Right.
Because I want it to be pure content, you know, value for the archer.
Sure.
And that's why I structured that group. And that's why, you know, I do the podcast is all for helping archers out, promoting the sport. And if you have a question, you know, get on here and ask, you know, whether you're on here, and right now I don't have anybody making any comments, but you know, if somebody had a question, then we could pass it on and talk about it. I've had that happen before. People have questions and I'll just ask them in the chat and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely about the sport for sure. So, you know, whatever we can do to continue to help it grow, that's what we're going to do. And organizationally, that's what we set out to do to begin with, was to make sure that the sport of archery continues on. And yeah, there's all kinds of organizations out there, but I would say they're all unique in their own flavors is kind of the terms that I use. And you know, we're going to have our own spin on things and our own flavor on things. But at the end of the day, it's still archery, and that's what we're trying to promote and make sure that we, you know, continue to get that information out there. You know.
Yeah, I always thought, you know, when I was doing the 3Ds, they had the hunter class, you know, you're using hunting equipment, and they score it 5, 8, 10, 12, whatever. I think it should be scored -5 if you don't hit the kill zone.
The vital
That's
area.
you're going to get 8 or 10 or -5. So you're better off to miss than to make a bad shot, because
Right.
in hunting situation, we don't get points for having a bad shot.
No.
You know, I think that should be scored -5 because it's a bad hit. And then, you know, you got your 8 and your 10. So you could easily end up with, you know, almost no score if you get one bad one. Instead of getting 5, you're losing 5.
Right.
And, you know, that makes it more like a hunting situation, although you're going to aim a little differently on the targets. But, you know, because you got different angles and you aim at the same spot, whether you're elevated or not, where you're hunting, you're not going to. But, you know, I always thought that would be the hunter class, that it should be is like you're going to like you're hunting.
Right. I got kind of tickled. One of my students asked, Coach, can you help explain the 212s in the scoring rings? And I said, I would love to help explain that. And I said, I can explain that so you have a full definition and understanding of how each of those works. But I'm going to tell you from your coach's perspective, I'm so old and I can't see well. I can't see the 12 rings anyway, so I never shoot at them. I shoot for 10s and hope for 12s. And they kind of chuckled a little bit and they thought, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. And I said, well, it will. And when you get my age, you'll be like, I can't even see the 10 ring. I'm guessing at where that is anyway. So at 30 yards, that's quite the shot with a longbow or a bare bow. So I'm doing good just to get it in that 10 ring. But yeah, the kids kind of make me laugh when we start talking about specifics. Well, what's his 14 ring for? What's his 12 ring for? What we explain it and we let them know, you know. And that's some things that we're working on differently too as an organization. We've definitely trying to put scoring in place that most don't. So those are some new things coming up this year that we're hoping to put into play. And I'll leave it at that. We're not going to give anything away. We're just going to let you know we're working on some different stuff. And for those that want to come and join and find out what the different looks like, they're more than welcome to do that. And we appreciate anybody that wants to come out and learn archery and shoot with us. You know, the shootout series was definitely designed to be there for kids, and now we've stepped into adults, and we want to continue that passion and drive forward to give them what they want.
So if someone was interested in joining in the shootout series, how would they contact you?
Well, we have Facebook. Rhonda, I'm going to leave that one to you, considering you talk to most everybody online.
Yes, we do have a Facebook page. It is actually listed under the Shootout Series. And it has our buckles, and that's the one thing I guess we didn't even talk about is our national champion. Well, hold on. Our national champions get buckles like these. So they're pretty nice buckles. And it has that buckle at the top of our page. If you are wanting to join with us, you just give us a message. We have an announcement group that we have a private group to do all the chatter back and forth. We do have a website under development right now, but I've got shout out to my little college girls that have been helping us cover messages. We have 6 or 7 people that answer on that page. So somebody will get to you pretty quick.
That's good. I'll leave a link in the description on how to get a hold of you. It'll show up in the.
We do have state coordinators in each one, so we can direct you to your state's coordinator. And if you're not a state that's shooting yet, hey, holler at us and we'll see if we can get you started.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
It certainly has been.
Give you something else to do rather than just the normal path everybody takes. Just something a little bit different, and maybe we can get this expanded to cover a little more states.
Well, and I think, and I've said several times, as coaches and parents and archers, we needed this to be fresh and new because we were burnt as bad as our kids were, because we were all shooting all the time and we would get burnt out. So we spread out our shoots. We don't have as many shoots. We're just trying to make it fun again. And if you win something, that's fine. And if you don't, it's okay too, because we're not a whole lot about the score and competition. We're more of, I tell people it's kind of like a glorified league night, that we're going to do what we have to do. We're going to learn while we're there, and we're going to have a good time. And we play music and it's loud, and we cheer and holler, and it's awesome.
Like any sporting event, you're going to have a lot of cheering and a lot of noise going on, and I think if you get used to that, shooting is actually going to improve because you're used to tuning all the other stuff out.
Yes.
You're used to tuning it out, and then you're not tuning out your own thoughts. So you're focused. You have to focus on what you're doing to ignore all the noise going in the background. And sometimes you'll hear them cheering your name because anytime you hear your name, your ears kind of pick up a little bit. But you have to learn how to tune all that out and just take it as energy that they're giving you. And use that energy.
And we also see, and if you watch the videos, you will see our kids are up on podiums under spotlights with the whole gym dark and the music pounding, and you'll have kids that are usually very introverted that'll be up there dancing to the music. So it takes some of that nerves away because they're singing with the music, they're dancing on the podiums. We've had some dance offs between the 2 archers that's shooting head to heads. It's just fun.
Yeah, make it fun, and you'll keep people going, and it's also fun for the audience. Somebody
Absolutely.
watching. You're going through all that as opposed to just seeing 2 people standing up there completely silent. Like in a golf game. Yeah, everybody is quiet. Don't make no noises. You might disturb them, and then you're up there, and now they have all this to think about. It's all this quiet, and I just think that's amazing that you do that and make it more like a party.
Well, we decided our kids have the best music taste, that we've actually done a great job as parents, because the 2020, they had walkout songs that they had to pick out their walkout song. And the songs these kids were picking were like what we were picking. I mean, we had Metallica, we had AC/DC, we had Walk This Way, we had, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. I mean, we had some great music. So I think we're actually making a Spotify playlist because it's awesome.
Well, we can't forget the one that said, had the play song of I Shot the Sheriff. That one's,
We had Baby Shark and Chicken Dance were 2 of them we also had. So, and somebody in this group right here used the Oompa Loompa song. Just saying.
Thank you, Rhonda, because the world needed to know that, right? You got to keep it light. That's the way I always look at it. I mean, there's always a serious side, but our series was designed with the intent to make the archer better. Okay, so how do we get better? I keep going back to Doodle on this one because he hit everything he's ever said. Iron sharpens iron. I will never forget that for the rest of my life, and it's an absolute truth. So, those words we have seen stepping up 12 inches on a black riser crumble the absolute most solid people you will ever see. their knees will quake when they get up there. And then you'll see these 4, 5, 6-year-olds jump up there and throw down like nobody's business, like it doesn't even matter. And
Yeah.
And
that's
you see
priceless.
adults absolutely are terrified. We had a guy that's a former Major League Baseball pitcher, and he came up to me. He said, I hear something's wrong with those podiums. And I thought, oh no, what's wrong with the podiums? He said, I heard they make your knees shake. And I thought, you know what? He used to pitch for the Brewers. If that makes him nervous, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as adults, we get these self-made fears in our head, and it's like, okay, we step up there. Oh, we're in a spotlight. They get like, oh, cool. And then now they're doing that when they get adult, it's like, hey, no big deal. Just climb up there. It's like the first time you do something, it's you get nervous the first time you do something.
But we actually, the first year we did this, because our kids had never experienced anything like this. At that first year, there were 3 people that had gone to Lancaster. And this year we had over 25 of our kids and adults that had been through our process. They weren't scared of it anymore. We had over 25 that traveled to Lancaster and shot in the big shows because they kind of had that experience to a much smaller level with us. But they were like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. So they're going out and being on the national stage. And there are several of our kids and a few adults that in several different organizations are just racking in the national, setting records with USA. It's just amazing to watch them.
Right.
And even though they're not our kids, they're our kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To the tune of like 148 something for me. So
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot when you can start a program, a few years later, you've got that many people that are really making a name for themselves. That says a lot for your program and what you're doing for the kids and the sport.
Well, I tell the kids all the time, everybody, I get from the parents a lot that we love you. You're a great coach. Blah, blah. I'm like, it's not about me being a great coach. I said, this is about the kids being coachable and listening and them being themselves. We have great kids in these programs. And without them, the program wouldn't exist to begin with. And I recognize that from a coaching standpoint, as much as we love the sport and as much as we would like to think, well, we all have our things, and Rhonda can verify. I know I do some quirky stuff. I don't coach a lot like most do. I still teach through the NTS, but I have my own little things that I do different. And Rhonda, I know she caught one of my little ones getting into their stance, and she was like,
They walk like this. They walk their little feet out to get their perfect stance. And I was like, oh, you've been working with Bobby, haven't you?
I call it the stance, and it gets everybody into a correct open stance every time without hesitation. But it does look a little weird when you see them doing it because they do it every time. They don't think about it anymore. They just get up there and they move their feet to where they're supposed to be. And it is comical because you're like, what kind of little quirky dance is that? But then when you look at their position on the floor, you're like, wow, he's in a kind of a perfect open position. It just works. And it's something I've noticed over the years. And I thought, well, if that's what helps them get there, then I don't care how they get there, but if that's what their aid is right now and it works, we're going to stick with it. And for me as a coach, it's about the kids, and it's always going to be about the kids. So, I've been blessed.
Learn the process and do it every time.
Correct. So we definitely have our own things. And I know, Rhonda and them work very diligently with their kids, and they've got, Rhonda's got a really healthy organization there. And most of the clubs they're all doing everything necessary to grow youth archery. And even the adult side, we started this for kids, but we have found that the adults really wanted their section of indoor as well. And, we have embraced that. It's definitely something that organizationally we have responded to, and we accepted that growth. And yes, it does present its challenges because adults, we can kind of posture here and there. But, for the most part, we've got really, really good folks that are involved, and, our people invite us in to do our shoots. And that's been a great success for us too. So, some of us will have to pay for a venue here and there, but for the most part, we've been very blessed as an organization to have access to space that doesn't cost us an arm and a leg, or a place that will donate us venue space. And we all know how important that is, because
Right.
space comes at a premium. It's a usually very expensive premium. So anytime you can get somebody to loan you a building for a national shootout, then how cool is that when you can give them all the praise for giving you a space? So we definitely make sure that they're out there and they know, and we take our sponsorships very seriously, and make sure that those people are praised also. But we give most of our praise to the kids and the families, because without the parents too, if our parents aren't doing the daily Uber driver for their kids, they can't get from point A to point B either. So got to give that credit where it's due too.
Yeah, like you said, the kid is coachable because of the parents.
Right.
You
Right.
know, if they didn't prepare them to be coachable, then you couldn't do your job anyway.
Right.
So yeah, like you're saying, it's like, they say, how good you are and everything. It's like, well, because you prepared your kid to be coachable, so I can come in and I can help them. And it's amazing, how the parents can really affect how the kids are develop.
Right. We got the blank silence going on now.
Well, I just want to make sure if you had any, you have any parting thoughts before we get out of here?
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come on and tell people about our program. And just like Bobby says, our coaches and our parents and our communities have been fantastic to step up and help these kids and help us get programs started. I personally have one. I'm blessed. I have a park that the city of Salina, Tennessee, lets us have, a Corps of Engineer park, and I put it with a lot of the as good or better than a lot of ranges that I've ever been to. And we'll go in and you'll have people at a restaurant hand you a check because they see what you're doing. And one year, our archery team, we did a survey, brought over $86,000 into a community that has no stoplights. So people come to our shoot that had never been there. 80% of the people that came to shoot with us that year had never been to that town. And since that time, we've had people, it's on Del Hollow Lake, buy houseboats, buy summer homes, move their family to that community once they came to the community and fell in love with it. So those communities have embraced us and given to us more than I can even say.
Absolutely.
So what do you have for parting thoughts here, Bobby?
My parting thoughts would be, I just want to continue to see archery grow. I want to continue to see youth archery. There's nothing better than seeing the mind and the spirit of a young person that embraces archery and watch them grow. And so if you have that desire and you want to learn something about archery, get out there, find out who your local archery representatives are, get involved. Almost every state has some form of archery association. Reach out, find out who is available, what's available. And in the same token, obviously for the shootout series, if you're looking for something different, then reach out. We'll be happy to help you in any way that we can. But we're certainly thankful for you to give us the time today, Roy, and we appreciate everything that you're doing for the archery community.
It's been my pleasure. I enjoy talking to, if you're an archer, yeah, you're welcome on the podcast because it's going to be fun talking. There's just so many different stories from, the new person that just starting out. It's like, I don't know anything. Like, you're an archer, know how to shoot a bow, or want to learn how to shoot a bow, you're good.
Right.
So it's just all different ranges, and it's just been so much fun doing this, and I enjoy it. So, stay tuned for the next one. It's going to come out.
Outstanding.
I post 2 podcasts a week, and then of course in the group they get to watch them live and interact with them. So there's no waiting in the group. Otherwise, you have to wait for a while. It's just been so much fun, and hopefully everybody learned a little bit about the shootout series, and it kind of excited to get involved in it or start it. So if you want to start it in your area, contact them. I'll leave a description with the links in the description down here. So it'll make it a little easier for him to get to them, but just go out and connect with them. And I think it's be a lot of fun. It's like, I gotta start checking here. It's like in Nebraska, you didn't mention Nebraska. So
So are you saying that you'll be the coordinator for Nebraska and you'll get this started? Is that what I hear?
I could be, yeah.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah, maybe we get something going here in Nebraska and see what's going on, and get something else, because there's a lot of kids in here that are shooting bows, and I'm out here in the middle of nowhere between Omaha and Lincoln. So there's I'm sure there's some land I can get here to hold some outdoor events on.
That'd be awesome.
A lot of them have
Sure.
crops on them, but there are some that don't have corn and beans on them that we might be able to use, and just get something going. And it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun to be
Oh,
involved
it's
in it.
tremendous fun. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, my name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host on Archer Talk 101 with the Shootout series. Rhonda and Bobby talking about that. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.